everyone, welcome back to Grow Roots. This is Shannon, and today I'll be talking about my top 5 plants for spring bloom and interest in my garden. So this is my own top 5 list, and all of these plants are actually in my garden right now. So this is year 2024 in mid-spring, and I'm sure that my list is going to be different every single year. This is just my favorite plants in my garden for spring blooms and interest right now. So today I'm not really going to be talking about annuals. I'm more going to be talking about the perennials, shrubs, and vines that provide spring interest in my garden. So let's get started. Number 1 on my list is Tangerine Beauty Crossvine. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I have Chloe. Say hi. Okay. Tangerine Beauty Crossvine is number 1 on my list because it is an absolute showstopper in the spring when it begins blooming. It is a perennial vine in zones 6 through 10, so a majority of the United States can grow this vine as a perennial, and not only that, it is an evergreen vine in zone 7 through 10. In zone 6, you're going to see that it's a semi-evergreen plant, but it still will keep its leaves on during the winter for you and also provide winter interest, which is really, really difficult. In the springtime, when Tangerine Beauty Crossvine starts blooming, it is covered in these beautiful corally pink buds, and then those buds open up into these trumpet shaped flowers with yellow centers, and they're like tangerine colored, hence the name. Absolutely perfect for hummingbirds. If you have hummingbirds in your area in the spring when this is blooming, they are going to be majorly attracted to those blooms, as well as all the other pollinators. So I have found the honeybees in our area are swarming in the midday because they love the blooms, and it is just a spectacular show. I've really never seen anything like it. I have it on my 4 trellises, and this was my vision when I bought these trellises. I'm sorry, I did not buy these trellises. My amazing husband built these trellises, but my vision for those trellises was really a flowering vine that was going to be covered with flowers, and the Confederate Star Jasmine that I had on it initially did not do that job for me, so I replaced them with Tangerine Beauty Crossvine last year. This year was the first year that I got to actually see those blooms in the spring, and it was covered, and I mean covered in those blooms. It'll be even more covered in the years to come. So it is absolutely beautiful, showstopper, my absolute favorite plant for spring interest right now. The other factor for Tangerine Beauty Crossvine that makes it so awesome in the garden in springtime is that it provides vertical interest to your garden, which isn't just a whole other addition to the normal, gardening. If you can add vertical interest to your garden, you're adding a whole new layer of beauty. And the other thing about vertical gardening is that any size garden can accommodate a vertical vine. Tangerine Beauty Crossvine is also extremely heat tolerant and drought tolerant once it's established, so it makes it perfect for southern climates such as here in North Texas, where we have just extreme heat in the summer. So anything that's heat tolerant and drought tolerant is amazing. So if you're looking to add spring interest, spring blooms, vertical interest, and winter interest, please consider Tangerine Beauty Crossvine. Number 2 on my list is Salvia. Salvia is number 2 on my list because there are so many different types of salvias and colors. They are also extremely heat tolerant and drought tolerant, which is so important for us North Texans, all Texans in general, to be honest. And there are types of salvia that will survive all the way down to zone 3 and all the way up through zone 10. Not all salvias will survive in these zones, so you definitely need to look at your plant tags and make sure you know what zone your specific salvias that you're picking up are meant for. But for instance, one of the salvias that I've had in my garden the longest is called May Night Salvia. I absolutely love this salvia, and it is hardy from zones 3 through 10, and it's about mid-spring that it produces these beautiful like stalks of purplish bluish blooms, and it's just a prolific bloomer when it first gets started in the spring. So it provides amazing spring interest to any garden. There are also other types of salvias that I have as well. The newest type I have is Mystic Spire's Blue Salvia. I added these to my curbside containers in the front as kind of the thriller of the container, and let me tell you, I'm so glad I did. It's doing amazing. It's got these huge purple stalks and purplish bluish. I love the color of the leaves of this one. The Mystic Spire's Blue Salvia is perennial in zones 7 through 10. And then I also picked up some new salvias this past fall, and they are Salvia Greggi or Greggi I, depending on who you talk to, and also Hot Trumpet Salvia. So Salvia Greggi is a Texas native salvia, Texas tough, super extremely heat tolerant, drought tolerant, and it will get really big if you let it, or you can prune it and keep it to a manageable size. But it comes in all kinds of different colors. I think mine is kind of a hot pink color, and it's doing amazing in my garden right now and blooming already in mid-spring, as well as the Hot Trumpet Salvia. Hot Trumpet Salvia in my garden so far is a little bit more compact. It's not like growing like the Salvia Greggi is, but it's got these huge, massive, tall red stems that are just these beautiful, and again, it is blooming in my garden already as well. So those are the types of salvia that I have in my garden, but many different types, and a great tough plant to add some spring interest to your garden. Number 3 on my list are hydrangeas. And the only reason that hydrangeas are not number 1 on my list is because they are found to be a little bit finicky and a little bit tough to grow here in North Texas. So not everybody is fond of hydrangeas here in North Texas. However, if you've been with me in any of my garden tours, you know that I have many hydrangeas and a variety of different types of hydrangeas in my garden. But for spring interest, today I'm going to be talking about Hydrangea macrophylla, or mop head hydrangeas. So I have many of these hydrangeas in my garden. Most of them are the variety of endless summer hydrangeas. So those are your typical blue versus pink blooms. Depending on the acidity of the soil, they will produce blue blooms or pink blooms. And I have one that is the oldest plant in my garden right now. It is, I think I calculated, it was 13 years old this year. I got it for Mother's Day in 2011, and it is in a container right up against the side of my house on my front porch, and it gets some morning sun only and then full shade the rest of the day. And that is what Hydrangea macrophylla prefer. I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up in North Texas. They are providing it. If it's getting any type of afternoon sun, it's probably going to fry the Hydrangea macrophylla or the mop head hydrangea. So please don't give it afternoon sun. It is way too hot here. They do not like it. And then they also like acidic soil, so I add soil acidifier, and that also creates some blue blooms as well. And I like to add good fertilizer like plant tone once or twice every season to keep them going. But I absolutely love this plant. I think it's worth all of the effort just to get these plants growing, because when they're blooming, they are spectacular. And it is going to be kind of late spring when these types of hydrangeas will start blooming. I've already got my oldest one it has more than 30 blooms right now, and a lot of them are already showing their color. And it's always so interesting to see what color they're going to show up every year, because if the soil is less acidic, they're going to show up pink. If the soil is more acidic, they're going to show up blue. And then if it's kind of in between, they're going to show up purple. And on one of my hydrangeas, I've even been able to get one bloom in particular last year was half blue, half pink. And I think that's because when I added soil acidifier, it was not an even coverage around the plant. So one bloom in particular was half blue, half pink. It's so awesome though. I really love that. And I have already added soil acidifier to my hydrangeas just so I can get them happy and get them growing. I have some that are growing in my part shade garden on the side of my house, and this is a new garden bed, and the soil is not quite amended like it is in the container or in my front garden where another one of mine is. And so these are struggling just a little bit. I'm still working on adding compost and mulch and getting that soil to just be better. I'm adding a lot of soil acidifier, and I'm adding some chelated iron as well because they have issues with iron intake. So their foliage is turning yellow a little bit, and that is one problem you can have with hydrangeas. Like I said, they can be finicky, but they are worth all of the effort, I promise you. I do also have a lace cap hydrangea that has variegated foliage that I still have yet to actually see blooming, but just the variegated foliage alone provides amazing spring interest as well. So I hope that you will consider a Hydrangea macrophylla for spring interest in your garden. Number 4 on my list is Spirea. So this is a flowering shrub, and the only type of Spirea that I have in my garden right now is double play candy corn Spirea. I picked this up on clearance this past fall, and I am so glad I did because it provides the most beautiful color in the late winter and in through spring. And even though it's a smaller shrub, it's fantastic. So in late winter, it is a deciduous shrub, so it loses its leaves in the winter time, but the bark is like a red color, so it's still really pretty. And then in late winter, this was the earliest plant for me to leaf out. It starts leafing out, and when the leaves come out, they are this bright candy apple cherry red color. It almost looks like a flowering quince if you're not looking careful. So it's just this beautiful red. It looks like blooms, but they're the leaves that are coming out bright red. And as those leaves start maturing, they start turning an orange color and then a yellow color, and then eventually, like right now, they're turning a chartreuse color. But at the same time, it's still pushing out new foliage, so that new foliage is red and then turning orange and then turning yellow. So you've got all of those colors on the plant at the same time by early to mid spring. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely spectacular. They grow 2 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet to 3 feet by 2 feet to 3 feet. So there's this really nice mounding shrub that you can fit anywhere in your garden. And right now in mid-spring, I've also got blooms beginning on it, and the blooms are this really pretty little pink/purple color. They're not big, they're not really showy, but they are like just this new addition to the color. Like, you're getting a rainbow of colors on the same plant in mid-spring. So I absolutely love double play candy corn Spirea. I really want to get bridal wreath. Is it bridal wreath Spirea that also blooms white in early spring, early to mid-spring? So I want to add that to my garden as well. But I think Spirea is just this beautiful shrub that you can add to your garden that has amazing spring interest. Okay, so last on my list of my top 5 spring blooming plants in my garden is the only flowering perennial on my list, and that is Dianthus. I know Dianthus is super common and often inexpensive in our garden centers, and I think it's often overlooked, to be honest, but I think it is one amazing plant. Did you know there are over 300 types of Dianthus that are available, and they range from annuals to perennials to evergreen perennials and to biennials. So just lots of different types of Dianthus. What you see in your garden centers typically in the winter and early spring are those Chinese pinks. That's the variety that you'll typically see. They come in all kinds of different colors, whites and pinks and reds and everything in between, and fairly inexpensive, but they typically survive our winters here in North Texas pretty well, so you can plant them in the winter and they will do fine. And then in the spring, they will just explode in blooms in all of those different colors, and they are beautiful winter interest and spring interest here in North Texas. But my favorite Dianthus, and probably one of my favorite flowers right now, is the Sweet William. I have Sweet William double mixed that I grew from seed from Botanical Interest, and I started growing them a little over a year ago indoors last spring. And I was a little frustrated because I didn't realize it was a biennial plant, which means it will not flower the first year. It will only flower the second year, and then it's gonna die, I think. We'll see. But it really did. It's beautiful green foliage that grows for you in that first year, and it was extremely heat tolerant, drought tolerant, because that plant, oh, some of them in my garden, they just survived so much from last year's heat. And then they were evergreen in the winter time. I just dotted my backyard with them, and I dotted the front yard with them. Not all of them survived in the front yard, but I did have one that's just huge and beautiful. But then this spring, finally in mid-spring, they started shooting up these stalks and became really tall all of a sudden, and these beautiful flower heads developed on them of these beautiful white and pink, and all of the colors in between. The double mix just is unbelievable. There's lots of different types I'm noticing too. Some of them are darker pink on different plants, and some of them are white on different plants, and reds, and all of the mixture of colors are on these plants, and they're just absolutely beautiful. The butterflies are loving them. I got a video the other day of the butterflies. They're on them all afternoon, it seems like, and they just absolutely love them. So Dianthus is beautiful for spring interest, for winter interest, and most of them are hardy in zones 3 through 9. Now, the Chinese pinks that are called annuals in Walmart, those are actually perennial in zones 7 through 10. But the Sweet William Dianthus that I was just speaking of is hardy in zones 3 through 9. So really, everybody can grow Dianthus, and it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful flower to add spring blooms in your garden. That is also a perennial for most. So that about does it for my top 5. And remember, these are just the ones that I have in my garden. I have other favorites for spring blooms as well, but this is what I have in my garden that I am enjoying the most this spring. But I did want to include some bonus plants as well. And I wanted to quickly talk about 2 ground covers that I have in my garden that are providing amazing spring interest right now. So just a little bonus for you. I really tried to increase my ground cover game last year in 2023, and I still have a ways to go. But 2 ground covers that I added last year was Burgundy Glow Ajuga and then Lemon Ball Sedum. And these are my top 2 for spring interest. So Burgundy Glow Ajuga, no matter what, all through the season, it's amazing for its foliage. So the foliage is white and cream and shades of pink and like a purpley maroon color. The foliage is absolutely beautiful. But in the early to mid-spring, it will shoot up these beautiful purple stalks that are almost blue as well, and it just looks absolutely stunning. And as my Burgundy Glow Ajuga grow and fill out, they will have more and more blooms each year, and I just think it's absolutely spectacular spring interest. And then the Lemon Ball Sedum, wow, I picked that up in the wintertime or the late fall, and it was evergreen all throughout our winter. This beautiful chartreuse, almost lemony color. And then now it's spreading, it's rooting itself, it's doing amazing, exactly what a ground cover should do, but it's also shooting up these really cute little yellow blooms. A lot of people say they're insignificant blooms. I don't know if everybody even likes the blooms, but I sure do. They're these beautiful little yellow blooms, and on top of the foliage, which is chartreuse green, I absolutely love it. It contrasts with the garden and the other flowers in the garden so beautifully. I just think every garden needs a Lemon Ball Sedum, and they are hardy in zones 3 through 10 as well. And I believe, let's see, the Burgundy, okay, no, let me correct myself. The Lemon Ball Sedum is hardy in zones 4 through 9. The Burgundy Glow Ajuga is hardy in zones 3 through 10. So almost anybody can grow these ground covers. I think everybody needs them in their garden. And so those are my 2 bonus plants for ground covers. And then I just wanted to mention really, really quickly, one of my favorites in the garden right now. I actually have amaryllis bulbs growing in my garden right now, and I wanted to put it out there only because a lot of people in North Texas in zone 8A, 8B, they don't think that an amaryllis will survive year-round in our garden, and I'm here to tell you that I did an experiment. I ordered bulbs from colorblends.com not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, and they were beautiful big bulbs, and I ordered the Rapido amaryllis, which is supposed to be hardy down to zone 8B in a garden. and we are really borderline. Not only that, but our winters, we often get zone 7 temperatures. So even though our winters are warmer overall, we'll get cold snaps that bring us down to zone 7 temperatures and for days at a time. So I really knew that this plant was going to be marginal. I gave them the bulbs as gifts for Christmas that year, and I kept one for myself. And my neighbor Aida and we decided to plant them in the garden after they were done blooming in the Christmas of 2022 and into the winter of 2023. And lo and behold, they survived the heat of our summer last year. They survived our winter this past year as well. And we did get down to zone 7 temperatures. We got down to 8 degrees, 10 degrees for hours at a time. And now our amaryllis bulbs are multiplying, and they're also sending out shoots of blooms. And the Rapido amaryllis is amazing because you're going to get multiple blooms for every shoot. There's 5 blooms on one shoot right now, and then I've got 2 more shoots that are about ready to open. So 3 different shoots of flowers, 5 blooms each. No, is it 7 blooms each? I think it was 7 blooms each. So I calculated 21 flowers that I'm going to get to enjoy this winter or this spring because my amaryllis has survived. So if you'd like to try amaryllis out in your garden, try to find a really decent bulb, like bulbs on colorblends.com are very, very decent and good size. They're worth every penny that you pay for them. And then also try to find amaryllis that are hardy down to at least zone 8B. And try them out in your garden. You'll find that they'll bloom in the springtime, and they are just an absolute beautiful addition to any spring garden. Okay, so that wraps up my top 5 plants for spring interest, and plus some bonus plants for you as well. And I'm sure my list will change every single year as I add more things to my garden, but these are just my favorite 5 plants for spring interest in my garden that I am enjoying so much. I love this time of year. Spring is my favorite time of year, and I still can't wait to see what the rest of the season is going to bring for all of the plants that I have. And I hope that you're inspired. I hope that you've gotten some ideas for your garden to add interest for spring, and think about interest for your garden for the whole year round. If we want our gardens to be the best that they can be, we really need to think about each and every season and what plants are going to be interest in those seasons. And if you have 4 seasons of interest in your garden, you're just going to make it that much prettier, more beautiful, that much more special. So think about doing that, and I hope that you all have a great day. I thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps me tremendously. I am so thankful for all of you that have subscribed, but please, if you haven't yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you did. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye-bye.